there, and welcome back to this bite-sized episode of the Mission Makers podcast. We're going to dive back into some of our favourite episodes of season 2 and pull out some of the key lessons from our amazing guests that will hopefully inspire and fuel your missions wherever you are in the world. So following on from last week's bite-sized episode, elevating equality is something that's become somewhat of a common denominator in many of our episodes. And so for this week's episode, we thought it would be super interesting to bring Saudi Arabia's first ever female superbike racer, Dania Akeel, onto the show. We chat to Dania about her experiences of women driving in Saudi, her journey to becoming a racing driver, and the landscape of motorsports in the kingdom. So I want to sort of start off by taking you back to when you were much younger. You're 10 years old, and you're wandering down the aisles of Toys R Us with your father, where you spotted a go-kart for the first time. So what do you remember about that moment? Is there any part of you that kind of recognizes this might have been like an innate calling to you at that point?
Um, I'm not sure how much I was aware of defining it as a calling, but definitely my nature was drawn to driving, to cars, to bikes, to movement, mobility, speed. It was just a natural joy. It was just joy. Whenever I drove anything, I was just so happy. So, I mean, if you relate your calling to feeling that very natural joy, happiness, and peace, then yes. As a child, did I know that? I doubt it. But I mean, I saw that go kart and I just went crazy. Wow, it's a car, it's a car, it's a car my size. I mean, yeah, the car my size. Um, it was great fun. It was great fun. I took it in the sand, which I mean, I shouldn't have, but we managed with some guys at the house. We figured out how to make it run on different kinds of terrain. Messed around a bit with the engineering system. Maybe it was a calling, but I wouldn't say a knowing one yet.
So I know that your early ventures into everything automotive was somewhat fueled by your dad's love of cars. But I also know that your mum wasn't so keen on the idea. So do you think that like those two opposing energies like actually balanced each other out? And have they kind of been both quite supportive of your journey and the road that you've decided to take?
Well, I mean, I think for any mother, I'm not a mother yet. I hope one day, but I think for any mother, it's scary, right, for a child to be in motorsports, even though it's not as dangerous as it looks, and the statistics don't reflect that imagination of how dangerous it is. So fear can run away with you essentially. But if you look at there's high risk. It's not maybe as high as one would imagine from looking at the machines and listening to the sound and watching people race them. I doubt that the risk factor is as high as a mother's fear would imagine. Fear is useful. It can be harnessed to protect you. So, whenever I face fear on the track or off road, I don't overreact by pulling back too far, but I definitely pause and consider, why am I feeling this way? Um, and usually, when I tune into my instinct, it's either that I'm not comfortable enough to go ahead with what I'm doing or to progress further than the limit that I've reached. And that doesn't mean that I never will. It just means for that moment, I just need to take a minute. So that's useful. It protects you. During my last race, I was in Jordan Baja, the cross country Baja rally, and there was this one moment where at the top of a dune, and it was sandy, but with rocks in between the sand all over the place, and it was so steep that I couldn't see what was coming. So, and I felt fear, even though I had approached dunes where I couldn't see what was next before, but my instincts, I wasn't afraid. In that moment, I was afraid, and the co-pilot Stephanie told me, "You're not sure." I said, "No, I'm not sure." He said, "Let's find out," and I said, "No." There's a no there. So we turned around, we did a semicircle, and then I found a sandy part which didn't have rocks through it, and I took that line down the dune. I still couldn't see what was coming, but I didn't feel afraid. And out of curiosity, I looked to the right to see what the terrain looked like. on the place that I had been afraid, and it was full of rocks. So the chances of us not having such a smooth landing were quite high, and that really was that fear had indicated to me that I wasn't prepared to take that chance. So fear always has this negative element about it, and I don't usually like to entertain my fears or let them overcome me. But if you use them a bit as a guide, they can be a protection. So my mother's fears, I try not to adopt hers because they're not rational. She's not on the track with me. But that concept of being afraid, if you utilize it if you accept it and open into it as a guide, can be, can give you he'll just get into a car, he wants to see how it works, and he will just not think twice about flooring it, provided there's not no one else around. And that impulse and that aggression is also essential in motorsport. So you said it well. I think that equilibrium, that balance serves me well. I still learning how to make the most of all the elements that exist within me or within any person. It's a balance. We say the more experience you have, the more wisdom you gain as to how to maintain that inner solidity, that equilibrium. So I think I'm getting better at it. I don't know. I hope so, but that's the goal. The goal is to find that balance. You know.
Mm. I think it's so powerful what you just said there, because when you go down dunes, you never know what's on the other side. So already, there's a fear, there is like an unknown, but you kind of go headstrong into it. But for you to kind of actually pause at that moment and have like this overwhelming feeling of intuition, which perhaps was, kind of maybe sprung by fear, but in the end, it was an intuition. That's really interesting. And I love what you said about, like, we are all finding out the different elements and what's within us. And also, as you sort of alluded to there, like, it may look kind of crazy, and to people that are not within this world, they don't realize that it's actually very measured risk for the most part. So that's super interesting. So secondly, I'm sure that you've been asked this a lot, but you are like the first female superbike rider in Saudi, and I know firsthand obviously how much you love cars. We met at the Royal Automobile Club in London a few years back. So I want to hear from your perspective, what has been the reality of women not being allowed to drive in Saudi up until recently? Did you agree with it growing up? Did you understand why that was the case? And did it hinder you from actually being able to pursue and discover what you love in your own country?
You know, so my case is a bit. So my view is, when I was here till I was 14, and then I went to boarding school, and then I stayed in London for uni, and I officially came back when I was about 27. The first year I came back when I was 27, I got a job at a school, and I used to be driven there and back. I didn't feel contained or frustrated because I had access to a car and somebody to drive it whenever I wanted. So I never felt like something was limiting me, because it's what I knew. I had been born here uh, without women driving, and the human mind just adapts. You just adapt, and if you have no reference, it's much easier to do that. It wasn't that I used to be able to drive and it was taken away and then given back. That wasn't the case. It was just not done, and I had access to a car that could take me whenever and wherever. So I can't speak for somebody who didn't have that
Mm.
access. Speak only for myself, which I recognize as a privileged situation. So, but that being said, when we were given the right to drive and I did get my license, I thought that it wasn't going to make a big difference, because it made a huge difference. Just psychologically, you being in the car and going somewhere that no one knows where you're going. I mean, it doesn't have to be a secret. You're probably just going to the pharmacy, but it gives you that ownership that you don't have, no one has to know. Even the person who used to drive me, I mean, he was a nice guy, but he knew everything, where I was going all the time. And it wasn't in an authoritative way. It was just, he just knew because he was taking me. So when no one knew, you do get the sense of independence that you don't get otherwise. And that opened a lot of doors, not just in terms of like anything physical, but just mentally, you just see things differently when you have that sort of personal freedom and space. So it must have changed the psychology of people quite a bit. As I said, I never struggled or suffered in terms of mobility, but I did feel a psychological shift
Mm.
at being able to go places alone. Um, Obviously, practically speaking as well, because before, when someone else was driving me, I would take him into consideration. He doesn't want to be in the car all day waiting for me to pick up things left, right, and center. I like to get up at 6 a.m. to go to the gym. Maybe that wouldn't suit it's but now that I'm alone and independent, I can go whenever, however, and for however long. So that was another element that also opened doors for me, instead of having to accommodate someone else's basic schedule just out of courtesy.
So, but what's the reality today for like women who want to race in Saudi? I mean, are they allowed on racetracks? Can they go and drive in that sense? Is that a reality now?
Yeah, there are no limits when it comes to racing licenses. So I got the first racing license for speed bikes, and I used it to race on track in Dubai and Bahrain. Not in Saudi, only because there's no track that is suitable for bikes. And when it comes to car racing, you can also, I got the international rally license from the Saudi Federation, FIA license, and I used it for the FIA Cross Country Bahas World Cup races, the last two rounds. And as far as I know, there's no restriction on which racing license you can test for and apply for as a woman. I do know that the tracks here aren't ready for championships and tournaments and things like that, but that they're in progress apparently.
Mm.
I haven't actually seen one, but I'm also new to the space within Saudi, so I'm sure there's others who know more than me when it comes to what tracks are available and what will be available. Me personally, I've just been on the Bahrain circuit and Dubai and also Abu Dhabi as marina. They're the closest ones to me, and I went to those quite a bit. But yeah, as I said, when it comes to racing licenses, there's no limit for a woman.
Well, that's really good because, like, sometimes you see on this side of the pond, like, you see there are like drivers who just get so much like online hatred for just like being who they are, and it felt like there's like this huge cultural mindset. Obviously, it's at the beginning of change, but like it's interesting to see like how the country can kind of encourage more of a growth mindset in male counterparts. So to hear that like people give you a thumbs up when you drive, like that's really good, and that you feel safe, most importantly when you're driving, is obviously like really really
Yeah,
important.
I mean, I understand that maybe sometimes there's a different perception online, but that's why I like to speak from my personal experience and not from just these ideas of how many comments say what. Because at the end of the day, I mean, people feel safe behind a computer to say whatever they want, right?
Mm, mm,
But
mm.
what impacts me is my day to day. And if I enter a space which is male dominated, then that's my choice, and I know why I'm doing it and why I'm here. It's because it feels natural to me and I enjoy it, and I see the community, it benefits each other and they help each other, and people are just basically progressing and developing and growing. And I just like the atmosphere of motorsport, and that's why I'm around, and I like the activity, the sport itself. So that matters to me. People will always communicate with me, and I've only had a positive experience. I'm sure that not everybody is applauding what I do, and that's their right. At the end of the day, everybody's opinion of you is not really your business. If you and I have a conversation, I'm naturally going to form an opinion, and you can't control that,
Mhm,
right? So
mhm.
that's really how I see it here in this space. I mean, if you're one of the few females, people will have an opinion, but it doesn't have to be negative, and even if it is, it's okay. That's their right, as long as it doesn't affect or impact my rights and my day to day.
Yeah.
Then I'm not really concerned with it. What are my rights? My rights are, I can get any racing license I want. I'm welcome into any tournament or championship. I can hold the Saudi flag when I race. These are my rights and I'm given them. So So if someone has a negative opinion, it doesn't impact me, you
Mm,
know.
mm.
But I have been mostly receiving positive feedback. I don't
That's
know.
really good.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
you have to take it with a pinch of salt, of course. And you know that you're putting yourself against up that to be judged because people just do that, and like it doesn't, but it's sad to see, like it's sad to, I think there needs to be a lot more like sort of just, I don't know, boundaries online or whatnot, but I think that goes without saying. So well, very interesting that you touch upon psychology there, and with a long-term view of doing Dakar, obviously the toughest rally in the world. Some don't make it out alive, I mean, that's nuts. So what does the psychology of racing mean to you, and what kind of a competitor are you on the track? Like, I personally feel that you can kind of see someone's true colors on the racetrack. Do you kind of agree with that, or do you feel there's a correlation from what you've learned on the track and then how that's like impacted you off track with like your philosophies or your behaviors in like a personal and professional setting?
I think that there is a direct correlation, to use your words, between a person's psychology and their character and how they perform in a race on a track. Um, when you're competing, well, for me, it's not so much trying to beat anyone else, it's trying to overcome the obstacles that are in my own mind from me, trying to beat me. Um, that can look like another competitor, but it's just you, really. So, so I've seen my mind send me messages during a race, and I've had to consistently respond to those messages to drive myself to perform in the best way I possibly can. And those messages can vary. There was one race where I had overtaken the rookies and then slacked off because I wasn't driven enough to catch the middle of the grid because I knew I wasn't fast enough. And because I had that mentality, one of the rookies overtook me. And I saw myself become deflated during that lap. And I saw myself give up. And I saw myself finishing the race in last place. Um, but I didn't, because I saw that challenge appear, and I made a decision to keep pushing and beat the rookie that had passed me, because that was an unacceptable defeat, because that was above. I mean, I was capable of beating the rookies. So, and I wasn't capable of reaching the middle of the grid to beat the more experienced riders. I knew that. So you have to be aware of the tools that you have, the level that you're at, and the rest is psychology. You have to go through all of these mental tricks to make sure that you reach your best performance. And my best at that race was to finish before last, but that was because I was beating the rookies. And I did. I kept going till the last lap, and I overtook that bike again, and I finished where I wanted to finish. I didn't reach the middle of the grid, but I knew I wasn't there. That wasn't my race. My race was with the rookie. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So it's mental. You have your tools, you have your physical capability, your experience, your drive, and all of those things. But what takes you over the edge is really finding the right mindset to beat your own obstacles. And the same thing with the rally. At some point, I was thinking, how did I think I could do this? I reached a point in one of the stages where I felt challenged by the terrain, and that was a mental block. It was an obstacle. It was just something told me that I couldn't do it because I was afraid, and I had to overcome that thought. Because in a cross country rally, there was no other competitor like the road who passed me. That wasn't my challenge. My challenge was this mountain that I had to cross, and that happened to be the form which my fear kind of exercised its energy with. And I said, no, I'm here because the doors have all been opened for me to be here, which means, at the end of the day, I have faith and I trust that I wouldn't be anywhere where I couldn't handle something. I wouldn't be in a situation I couldn't handle. So that thought dissolved my doubt that I should be there. And when the doubt dissolved, I finished the race. You just have to have that conviction that you are where you're meant to be. And I had that conviction because I knew that the whole road that led me to the race I had done from an intention that was harnessed toward improvement and growth and crossing boundaries. I didn't intend to go to the race so I can beat everybody and, these other reasons that maybe aren't so concrete. The reasons that took me there had substance to me. So I trusted the path me to that position. And then when the doubt appeared whether I could do it or not, I said, no, if I'm here, it means I can do it because I've had a solid intent the whole way. So I finished. And that's all psychology. Because, okay, yeah, of course, I work out during the week, I train, I eat well. Those are the basics, but those are the essentials. You have to do those. You can't just like that's your physical to happen. But the thing that will make it or break it is the mind when you're competing. Because some people can have 100% physical top shape for racing. But what's going to be the difference between that person and the person who finishes the race first is the mind, because you can, and it's choice. It's choice on how to respond to these messages that appear when you're challenging yourself. So for me, the Dakar, if I and I hope I do end up doing it, it's only so I can meet myself at my limit and then see how I can just grow through that process.
Wow, that's really incredible and really well said. And I would love to see you do that eventually, and wish you all the luck in the world when you do take that path. So talking about kind of the resolve and the accident that you mentioned, so I just wanted to touch upon that quickly, because yeah, I know that it happened when you were racing in Bahrain last year, and that split second, how did that kind of go on to change you as a person when everything changed for a while, not just physically but also as a world? Quite quickly after that, we just completely put the brakes on hold, at that time. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, the timing was a friend of mine. I saw her when I came back, and she said, "Dania, good timing," because at the time everything stopped, not just everything stopped,
Yeah.
and I remember the accident. I had just come back from racing school and I was confident and I was pushing myself. And I remember feeling a bit discombobulated that day. I felt like my energy was a bit kind of all over the place. I was going faster, but I didn't feel centered. I was dragging my knee on the track on the turns much more than usual. So I was obviously throwing the bike down to the side more than I used to do. I'm not sure why I was doing that. Maybe I was trying so hard to be faster that I was paying less attention to how much I leaned left and right. I'm sure a lot of things contributed to my fall, but what did it was I took a tight left turn, on the back straight of the Oasis, and I leaned too far and I fell on the low side. And then I remember the moment of the fall, I knew that I was no longer riding the bike. I knew that I was not controlling it. And I consciously told myself, which is what the teachers had told me, let go, go with the fall, go with the fall, go with the fall. I just kept repeating that, go with the fall, because when you just you don't resist, that's when you just could have the least possible damage. And I remember saying that to myself over and over. And then I don't remember what happened. I remember I opened my eyes and I was face down and I wasn't moving. And then I closed my eyes and then I opened them again and I was in the ambulance. So my headgear was off, my suit and everything, and I was in my those gym clothes. So there was a couple of blackouts, but I do remember significant moments of it. And then in the ambulance, I started asking questions. What's going on? What happened? And I was high from the rush of the adrenaline or whatever it was. I was hyper. I was hyper, and I told the medics, "Oh, my toes can move. That's good." And I told them, what are your names? Asking them questions, just having conversations, making sure my brain was active. We got to a hospital, and then I remember blacking out a bit. I opened my eyes again because they were pushing me back into the ambulance. Where are we going? Where are we going? They said, we're going to a public hospital because you have to pay here. And I said, nobody asked me. I mean, if they asked me, I probably would have been like, let's just go, you know. But I'm glad actually, because in the end, I mean, obviously it was better for me, right? They took me to the public hospital, which is a really good hospital. So that was we went to the hospital, and then at this point they didn't know we were broken, but they tried to give me a wheelchair, and when I stood up I collapsed and I fainted. I woke up on the floor and I asked them what happened. They said I fainted. So I think that was from the pain. So I had four broken bones at that stage, but we still didn't know. Three broken bones. The spine was fractured. The three broken bones were in the pelvis. So at that point, we didn't know. They put me back in the bed. They wanted to go to the wheelchair so they could do the scans, but I couldn't. So we took the bed to the X-ray room. I mean, even talking about it now, it's. I was optimistic because I decided not to jump the gun. I said, "Don't think about anything that's coming. Just stay calm, stay quiet, and listen. Don't assume. Don't make any statements. You know, because fear wants, when it doesn't know what's going on, wants to give itself facts for you to feel safe, even if the fact is, oh, you can't walk. It doesn't matter. It's just when you're in control and you know what's happening, you feel safer. But I kept pushing any of my thoughts that wanted to control the situation away because we didn't know. Everything was a question mark. Even now with corona, you know, people like to analyze and say statements to feel like they're in control, but it's still unknown. Most of it is question marks.
I think it's true. The energy you manifest when you're in a moment like that, it kind of is what determines kind of some almost somehow how you come out of it, and like what your experience is from that as well. And I mean, you said that that day your mind was like slightly erratic. So I've seen recently that you got to experience Dakar and you got to co-present the opening ceremony in Jeddah, which is like absolutely incredible. You also got to witness Extreme E, and you got to meet some incredible characters like Zach Brown, Jean Todt, and David Coulthard. So tell me about that. What was that? What was that all like?
Um, that's tough to summarize. That was incredible. So the Dakar was amazing because I got invited to host the ceremony, and then I got invited to do some media work for the federation, which allowed me access to the Dakar for 2 whole weeks. So I was on the bivouac, I was on the assistant route, and I took the opportunity because if I want to be there as a competitor, I thought it would be great to experience it beforehand as a non-competitor. So just the idea of being 2 weeks on the road every day, getting up and going somewhere new, seeing how the bivouac culture worked, the living conditions, all this noise that when you're racing, you don't need to waste energy digesting.
Mm.
So once you have that sort of scope known, then hopefully as a competitor, there's a whole other world of things that you need to concern yourself with. So these basics like the setup, the living, the logistics, these are all you wouldn't even notice them if you had done them already.
Hmm.
So I took advantage of that opportunity and I loved it. And the federation was great. They were incredible, super supportive, helped me out a lot. And I got to meet every single racer. And I can actually say that literally because I was on the stage. Well, that was nice. Monsieur Jean, he was great. His wife Michelle is so sweet. Um, he was keen, he was interested. He said, "Oh, really? A Saudi woman, racing bikes." It was nice, and I had watched him growing up because of the Ferrari Formula One team when he was heading that. So um, it was nice to see. It was nice to see somebody from that background, from that history.
Hmm.
Um, you know, just just come to Saudi. That tells you how high. I mean, that's it. That's the top. When you look at motorsports in general, if the president of FIA is in town, then then you're at the top. And I'm happy for Saudi because the federation, I mean, everybody, they work so hard. They work so hard to deliver the best that they can deliver. and to please the competitors, the organizers, the locals, the spectators. I've seen them. They work really hard. They're nice people. So when somebody of that status in an industry arrives, that's an acknowledgement and a validation of that hard work of every single employee, you know, and I'm happy for them for that. And obviously with the Formula One as well, hopefully happening in Jeddah, that's another huge milestone and another recognition of the effort that's being made here on the ground. I'm very pleased for everybody here and abroad. You know, these events are incredible. They stimulate the economy. They engage the people. They bring different cultures together. They improve relations. They open people's mind to different cultures. The exposure is huge to what exists in the world other than in your own corner. I love sport for these reasons. You know, sport is a landscape for discovery. You know, back in whatever year they used to get on a ship and explore the world. I mean, for us now, you have a grid that has 20 nationalities on it, and you've crossed oceans. You know, that for me is I love that about sport. So and meeting all of those people was great.
Thank you guys for listening. Season 3 will be back with a bang in the autumn. Until then, we've got plenty of impactful bonus and bite-sized episodes coming your way. So don't forget to subscribe and share the show with your friends because it truly means the world to us. And if you're interested in some super cool rewards like virtual DJ lessons with me, signed books from our guests, and exclusive merchandise, then head over to www.patreon.com/missionmakers to check out how you can start supporting the show for less than what it costs you to fill up your car. So till then, Mission Makers, be safe, be healthy, and be laser focused.